So why did Satan fall, James? And can you give us a little, let's just start at the very beginning.
Well, in the beginning, God created heavens and the earth. And on the first day of creation, he separated the light from the darkness. Actually, St. Thomas Aquinas says in the Summa Theologiae, what is meant by that, by the author of Genesis, is that God separated the angels of light from the angels of darkness. And so, how would that go about? Again, St. Thomas describes that the angels didn't receive the beatific vision yet. So what that means is they wouldn't fully be able to comprehend the beauty, the fullness. They wouldn't see God face to face just yet. And the reason being is because God needed to test them. Now, he wasn't testing them because he's cruel and malicious, but rather because he needed them to have a free choice to choose him.
So could we say, just clarification, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, they did not have the beatific vision either.
Right.
So could we say it was a similar test that Adam and Eve had in the Garden of Eden?
I think the argument could be made for that.
Okay. I think that's a big misconception that I used to have, is like, they already had the beatific vision, they already had everything they needed. But the fact of the matter is they hadn't yet, and it was in a sense a test. And if they were to pass, maybe, they would have had the beatific vision then. All right, so with the angels, continue.
Indeed. And so what I really like is this quote from Dr. Scott Hahn. He says that God is love. And so love needs to woo. Love needs to, in essence, be vulnerable and allow the other person to choose or reject. If God didn't do that, if he just made the angels automatically and said, you will be my servants, that's not love. As Dr. Scott Hahn says, that's rape. And that's not God. And so, with that being said, that's why the angels needed to be tested.
I'm still seeing so many parallels between them and Adam and Eve in the garden. And yeah, I love that you said that. Just like in essence that God is love. He doesn't coerce us, he doesn't force us. And yeah, continue.
Absolutely.
I'm just giving some, color commentary here.
Very colorful, very well done.
Thank you.
Indeed. So, with that being said, one thing that angels have different than us, because they are pure spirit, because they are, in essence, higher in creation than us, as St. Thomas describes, they have perfect intelligence, and they have a full understanding of what the consequences of their actions are. So, the angels would know there is a God. They would know all there was about him without fully being able to gaze upon him, but they would know that he's the source of their being, he's the reason why they're alive, he's the only reason why anything exists. With that being said, the angels also would understand fully what God was presenting before them at the test. Unlike us, where we don't know the full consequence of our actions, nor can we fully realize, if I do these actions today, what consequence will it have on my soul 50 years down the road? Angels would. So that being said, God said, see mankind. And the angels automatically understood everything about mankind, what each individual one of us would be like, what our histories might be like. In essence, all that could encompass humanity, they could comprehend in that moment. And then God said, I will be one of them. Now to the highest angel, Lucifer, and St. Thomas Aquinas goes on to say that Lucifer, meaning light bearer, was the angel in charge of the light of knowledge of God. So in essence, he was the one that would comprehend like all these mysteries about God and lead others in this deep contemplation and wonder of God. And to Lucifer, this didn't make sense, because how can the infinite become finite? How could the Almighty condense down into one single physical space? And so Lucifer's thinking, this doesn't make sense. God goes on to say, and I will be born of a human woman. Again, to Lucifer, that sounded disgusting. That sounded blasphemous. The creator can't be created. And so he stepped forward and he said, non servum, I will not serve. And as it goes on to say in the book of Revelations, 1/3 of the angels fell with him. But I really like Dr. Peter Kreeft, a theologian, says that in his hypothesis, he thinks 1/3 of the angels were meant to worship and represent each member of the Holy Trinity. So for instance, 1/3 would worship God the Father, 1/3 God the Holy Spirit, and the final third would worship God the Son. And Dr. Peter Kreeft says that all the angels that fell came from this tier because they would not worship a human God.
It gets me every time you say it.
Yeah. And I think too that even before the beginning of the world, Christ was rejected. And that's something that's really profound to think about, that level of vulnerability. A God who says, you can leave. And we see how humanity treated Christ, and we see even too how the angels in charge of worshiping him treated him. That goes on to say why Christ says in the Gospels, when we die, we will be like the angels. Again, we don't become angels, but the hypothesis is that we fill in the ranks of the angels that fell. And so we'll be filling in the choir that was meant to worship Christ.
I can't help but think about when Jesus says, if anyone wishes to follow me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. And that idea of us being unified with Christ in the cross, taking up our crosses daily, that suffering, loving, and in those ways we're taking small steps to console the heart of Jesus and fill in these ranks that are left behind, that are left open from the angels that had fell, that had fallen.
I think an important piece too is to recognize that in that case, whenever we feel neglected or ostracized, or the Christian message has made it so that people don't want to be around us, what were we expecting when the Creator from the beginning? That's all he experienced with his message. Like, I just want to love you, you just need to choose me back. No, it's not how I want it to be. And the reason why, again, Lucifer chose to rebel against God, because he was in charge of knowledge. He was saying, this doesn't make sense. I can rule the universe better than you because I understand how things should go. You shouldn't be doing these things. You shouldn't become one of them. And underneath all that, Lucifer also would feel this twinge of fear because, again, he's the height of the angelic hierarchy. He has so much that he's able to glorify in, and he's more beautiful and amazing than everyone else. But he realizes, but look at her. She's going to be more beautiful than me. She's going to be so much more than what I can ever be because she will be the mother of God. And so the fact that there would be annunciation is why Satan fell. And Father Ripperger, who's an exorcist out of Colorado, he says during sessions, he'll sometimes have demonic entities talking about the Annunciation and Mary's beauty. And one of the things in exorcisms is they will have the demons think about things that cause them most pain. So some demons can't stand the resurrection, some can't stand Mary in a certain sense, some can't stand certain devotions to saints. And so with this particular demon, he absolutely abhorred the idea of Mary and her beauty. And Father Ripper said, why was she so beautiful? And I believe that this was Lucifer himself, and this possessed person said, because I can't ever be as beautiful as her, because she got to choose God every single day of her life. From the time Simeon prophesied to her that a sword would pierce her heart, the early church fathers say Mary understood all that Christ would go through, how much he'd be rejected, how people would lie about him, his 72 disciples that left, his passion, how all the world would choose to reject him in a single moment. And she had to carry that with her throughout his entire life. So for 33 years in silence, Mary is carrying this pain, and she's still choosing to give Christ back to God, saying, it's not mine, he's yours. Choosing to give Christ to humanity, saying, he's not mine, he's yours. And so with the devil, he said, I can't stand that. She would be more beautiful than me because she would keep having to choose God's will over her own. Father Rooker made the observation, so you're upset you only got to choose the once, and so you chose not to choose at all. And again, it sounds insane, but that's one of the things when you go against God, it doesn't make sense.
Wow. And look at that just difference between Satan and Mary there. Mary, at the prophecy, like you're saying, she's given like this vision of everything that's going to happen in a sense. Just like what you're talking about, the angels, they can see everything that's going to happen. And she sees like the pain and the suffering that she's going to have to go through and that Jesus is going to have to go through. And instead of saying like, ew, that's disgusting, she says, yes. And she says, that's beautiful. And she continues to give her yes. And seeing like God's incarnation and death on the cross as this act of love for humanity and her willingness to play her role in it. I'm so grateful for her in that way, because that must have been so much pain. And the humility.
Yeah.
Just the difference between Satan's pride and Mary's humility. And I think if there's anything we can take from this, there's a ton of things we can take from this, but to reflect humility in our daily lives, to follow Mary as this that's amazing example of humility, and to let that inspire us to continue to take up our crosses and follow Jesus.
That touches on, at least like help me comprehend deeper, is think about how Mary still gave Christ to humanity, even knowing there'd be that rejection. And so too with us, why is it that we hold the gospel to ourselves instead of sharing it with others? Well, I'll be rejected. It will be rejected. Didn't matter to Mary. It's like, this is God's will. I give it back to you. So why do we hold Christ to ourselves at times?
Go evangelize people. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
I think this is a good place to wrap up. Thank you, James, for your time.
Thanks for having me.
And your wisdom and expertise. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to hear more about this, just leave us a comment. Maybe I'll have James answer some comments. Click the like button, subscribe, share with your friends. And maybe we'll have James on here again. Till next time, see you guys. Peace. Nice. The chocolate milk was a little thick.
Soothe my soul.